The footage didn't make sense from the moment it started. Daniel had seen hundreds of memory extractions before, enough to recognize when something was off within seconds. But this one felt wrong in a quieter way. Nothing was broken, nothing was corrupted, and yet there was something in the recording that didn't belong. He couldn't explain it at first, only that his eyes kept drifting to the same spot, as if something important was standing there just out of reach. It took him a few more viewings to realize that it wasn't a glitch. It was a person, and the system had no idea who it was. The first memory extract looked routine at first, the kind of clean, structured playback investigators had grown used to over the past few years. Daniel Harker stood in the observation room, watching the reconstructed scene unfold on the glass panel. A narrow alley, wet pavement, dim security lights flickering. The victim collapsed near a dumpster. It was all ordinary until the moment just before the attack. A figure stepped into view. The system tagged nothing. No identity, no facial recognition match, no metadata. Daniel leaned slightly closer, expecting the system to correct itself. It didn't. The suspect, a delivery driver named Luis Moreno, had no prior record. His memory stream was stable. No corruption warnings. No neurological irregularities. Yet the moment the figure appeared, the feed registered a gap, like the system refused to acknowledge what it was clearly showing. The figure moved calmly, almost casually. No rush, no hesitation. Then the attack happened quickly, efficiently. After that, the figure turned slightly toward Luis, not directly at him, but just enough to suggest awareness. Luis's memory ended there. Daniel assumed it was a glitch. It wouldn't have been the first time the extraction tech misfired under stress. He ordered a second extraction. The result was identical. By the third attempt, something felt off in a way he couldn't easily explain. The system logs were clean. The timestamps aligned perfectly. The neural patterns matched baseline expectations. There was no technical reason for the missing identity. He moved on to the next suspect, a woman named Elise Tanaka, who had been seen near the area that night. Her memory was more fragmented, filled with panic and confusion. But when the playback reached the critical moment, the same figure appeared again. Same height, same posture, same stillness. Again, no identity. This time, Daniel noticed something small. Elise's perspective shifted slightly before the attack, as if she had sensed something behind her. The camera angle dipped, just a fraction, like her body had reacted before her mind fully registered it. The figure was already there. By the end of the day, 5 separate memory extracts had been processed. 5 different people, 5 different perspectives, and in every single one, the same unidentified person carried out the crime. No variation, no deviation. It didn't make sense. Memory extraction wasn't perfect, but it didn't fabricate consistency like that. If anything, memories tended to distort differently for each individual. Angles changed, details blurred, faces shifted slightly, but this figure remained exactly the same across all of them. Daniel requested a database sweep. Nothing. No matching biometrics. No historical records. No surveillance hits. It was as if the person simply didn't exist outside those memories. That was the point where the unease started to settle in properly. He went back to the recordings late that evening, alone in the lab. The building had quieted down, most of the staff gone. The hum of the machines felt louder than usual. He slowed the footage down, frame by frame. There was something wrong with the way the figure moved. Not unnatural, not mechanical, just slightly out of sync with everything else. The reflections didn't quite match. The timing felt off, like a delay that didn't belong. And then he noticed something else. In Luis's memory, right before the figure stepped forward, there was a faint distortion near the edge of the frame. Not visual noise, but something more structured, almost like another presence that hadn't fully resolved. Daniel paused the feed. He sat back for a moment, thinking. Then he made a decision he probably shouldn't have made so casually. He scheduled a self-extraction. It was against protocol to do it alone, but he bypassed the safeguards. He justified it as efficiency. He only needed a quick scan, just to rule out contamination or external interference. The process was familiar. The headset settled into place, the system calibrated, and his recent memory from that afternoon loaded onto the display. He watched himself standing in the lab, reviewing the footage. Everything looked normal, until it didn't. At exactly 11:15 in the memory, just as his past self leaned closer to the screen, the angle shifted slightly. And there it was, the same figure, standing behind him, not reflected, not distorted, clearly present, just a few feet away. It wasn't doing anything, just standing there. Daniel felt a tightness in his chest as he paused the playback. He checked the room around him instinctively, even though he knew it wouldn't help. The lab was empty. He returned to the memory, forcing himself to continue. The figure didn't move. It didn't attack. It didn't interact. It simply existed in the frame, unnoticed by his past self. Watching, Daniel ran the system diagnostics immediately. He expected errors, corruption flags, something to explain it. There was nothing. Every parameter came back normal. That was when the explanation began to form. Slowly, reluctantly. The figure wasn't a person in the traditional sense. It wasn't someone moving through the world in a physical way that could be tracked or recorded. It only existed within memory. More specifically, it existed at the edge of perception, in that narrow space where the brain registers presence before fully processing it. The extraction technology, for all its precision, wasn't just recording conscious recall. It was pulling everything, the subconscious, the ignored details, the things people never realized they had seen. Everyone at the crime scene had registered the figure. They just hadn't known it. And now, because Daniel had seen it repeatedly, analyzed it, focused on it, his own mind had done the same thing. It had made room for it. The final realization came quietly, without panic. He replayed his memory one more time. This time, he didn't focus on the figure directly. He looked slightly to the side, at the reflections on the glass panel. The angle was different there. Clearer. The figure wasn't just standing behind him. It was closer than that. Close enough that, in the reflection, its posture matched his exactly. Not mimicking, not copying, but aligned in a way that suggested it had always been there. As if it wasn't entering memories. As if it had always existed inside them, waiting for someone to notice.